So the problem that I got wrong on my last math test was called what is the domain of the function given by h of x equals square root of x squared minus 9 over x plus 5. So I'll be doing a variation of that problem. We'll be finding the domain of a different function. The function that we'll be finding the domain for is f of x equals to the square root of x squared minus 4x plus 5. Drag this over here. Okay, so because you're solving for a domain of the square root, you'll be trying to, so the x value that you put in, you would want it to give you back a value that is greater than or equal to 0, because if you have a negative value inside of a square root, then the number is over complex numbers and it's no longer rational. So you would set x squared minus 4x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 0. And then you would factor this out into x minus 5 and x plus 1. This is kind of messy. And x plus 1. And then you would get that the zeros of these are 5 and negative 1. And then because you're trying to find the numbers that will give you the positive value of this, you'll have to use sign analysis. And so you draw a number line and you put down -1 and you put down 5. So when you're using sign analysis, you pick a number from each interval. So for this interval, for example, I could use the number for the interval -1 and between -1 and 5, I can use the number 0. So if I plug in 0 into this equation, so 0 minus 5 times 0 plus 1 is equal to -5 times 1, which is equal to -5. And so this 0 is telling of this entire interval. So if I plug in a number from this interval and I get a negative number, it means that all my numbers from this interval are going to be negative. And then you do the same for these two other intervals. So for this interval, I can do 6, so 6 minus 5 and 6 plus 1 is equal to 1 times 7, which is equal to 7. And then this is going to be positive. And for this interval, so for everything that's less than -1, I can just do -2 minus 5 times 0, times, wait, let's erase this. The number is -2, so it would be -2 plus 1. And that's also equal to -7 times -1, which is equal to 7. So this is also going to be positive. You may have noticed that there's alternating intervals in between the sign analysis, that it's positive, negative, and positive. And also, okay, so after you found the signs of each interval, you know that you want the positive numbers, so your domain is going to be these values and these values. So your answer will be, your domain, your x value, is x such that x is less than or equal to -1, or x or x is greater than or equal to 5. And that's how you solve for the domain of this problem.